Select is the trade association for businesses who operate in the electrotechnical industry in Scotland. We have approximately 1,250 member businesses who range in size from one person up to the largest construction companies across Scotland and in fact the UK. We provide a whole host of services in relation to providing support to businesses on things like technical support, employment advice, as well as a range of services such as insurances.
And I was been told by someone quite recently, Alan, that the future is electric. Is that so?
Yes, I'm pleased to say the future is indeed electric, Drew. There is no doubt that we're all moving towards now more dependency on electricity in all our day-to-day lives, whether that be in our communications through the internet, mobile telephones, but also now increasingly in our vehicles and heating and lighting for our properties. And there's no doubt that electricity will continue to grow as a fuel of the future and develop and deliver a sector which is going to be a bigger demand across the board in relation to services we provide and the businesses that we service, providing that service to their customers.
Now, as we speak today, Select is in the process of campaigning for the regulation of electrician as a profession in Scotland. Maybe you could update us on the progress of that campaign.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's actually amazing to say that an industry which is so safety conscious is unregulated at the moment. I find it quite incredible, and when you speak to individuals, whether it be MSPs or MPs or in fact anyone in the street, when you say that the electrician is an unregulated profession, yeah, they're quite taken aback. So for the last 4 or 5 years, we've been undertaking a campaign to introduce what we call protection of title. So that effectively, to be called an electrician, you would have to have demonstrable qualifications and experience.
So you're saying, Alan, that at this time anyone could call themselves an electrician and undertake electrical work?
I'm afraid that's correct, Drew, yes. If you or I decided tomorrow that this wasn't the life for us and we decided to set up an electrical business and carry out electrical work, no one is actually going to stop us doing that work. And you can imagine the harm that we would potentially cause, and yet there are hundreds, if not thousands, of individuals out there carrying out electrical work who have no qualifications, no experience in the industry, and potentially putting people at harm and at risk.
Yes. So how can the public get involved to support that campaign?
Okay, I think the first important thing is to make sure if someone is using an electrician, they use a properly qualified electrician just now. And they can do that by going onto our website, select.org.uk. We also work closely with the NIC-EIC, who offer similar services in relation to electricians, so they can go onto the website there as well. I think that's important. First of all, you choose a properly qualified electrician and have the backing of knowing that the person doing the work is safe and competent to do so. The Scottish Government have actually said that next year they will have a consultation on the regulation of electricians, and again, we would really appreciate if any member of the public took part in that consultation to promote the regulation message.
And are you hopeful of a good outcome?
I'm more than hopeful, Drew. It's the only thing to do. You know, I can't believe the Scottish Government haven't actually acted at the moment. You know, as I said earlier, whenever we speak to the public or politicians, local or national, no one yet has said to me it's not the right thing to do. So I think the Scottish Government have to have the courage of their convictions and introduce regulation as quickly as possible.
Yes, big issue. Tell me, what are the other main issues in the electrotechnical industry in Scotland currently?
Okay, I mean, there's a couple of things. First of all, like all industries, we're suffering from the potential lack of young people coming into the industry. You know, Scotland has a skill shortage, which is already well documented. We are facing an ever-increasing competition with other trades and sectors to get young people to come into the sector. But I come back to the point that was made earlier, you know, electricity is the future. You know, what we can say is if anyone comes into this industry, they are then faced with an opportunity for life. And we find in our research that people do, when they enter the industry, stay in the industry for the majority of their life. So what we can say is anyone entering the electrical industry at this time has a really bright future ahead of them. So recruiting the right people is a challenge. And coming out of that is getting the right people in things like renewable energy, electric vehicle installation for charging points. All of the renewable technologies we have to make sure our members are fully aware of and trained up to undertake these installations. And with all of that comes requirements under compliance and regulation, wiring conditions, all of these things. We're becoming a more regulated sector in a country as we go forward. And again, that just reinforces the point that regulation of electricians is so vital.
And what is the industry doing to attract young recruits?
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, I think we always face that challenge of young people coming into the industry, and especially young women and ethnic minorities. And I think it's a work that we still need to take forward. You know, it was interesting. I was at a European conference recently and speaking to colleagues across Europe. Almost every country, with the exception of one, the Netherlands, indicated that they were facing the same issues that we were, both in terms of the number of people, but especially in terms of getting more women involved in the industry. So that's a piece of work that we need to work hard on, to get school kids involved, particularly at a younger age, to see electricity and the work of an electrician as their career of the future.
So what is Select doing to attract more recruits to the industry?
Well, we work closely with a number of schools and colleges across Scotland. We have a team that work on behalf of the industry training organisation SECT. We work closely with our colleagues in the Scottish Joint Industry Board, who actually operate the apprenticeship scheme, to try and get more young people interested. But I think we have to look to diversify that. You know, we may have to look at people who have perhaps been in another sector or another industry, or in fact gone through further education and training, to come back in to train as an electrician, because there's no doubt that we will need an increasing workforce to meet the demands of electricity as we go forward.
So explain to me the typical characteristics of a Select member.
Well, it's really a difficult question to answer, Drew, because there really, I suppose, isn't a typical member. You know, we have so many different types of members. We have single-person businesses. We have very large companies who employ hundreds of electricians. I mean, I guess if you take the average firm, which would employ about 6 electricians, they work and are based locally in small towns and villages across Scotland. They employ people locally. They train locally. They do work, obviously, locally. So they're always part of the community. And as I said earlier, you know, they are judged by basically the work they do, the quality, and more importantly, the safety aspect of what they do. So businesses work across all aspects of electricity. So they would work in someone's house. The next day they could be working in a farm or industrial unit. So they do all types of electrical work across the country and in different areas of construction.
And how many members are there currently?
We have just under 1,250 member businesses who employ between them approximately 15,000 electricians. And we have approximately 3,000 young people in our apprentice training scheme at the moment. It's one of Scotland's biggest single trade professions for apprenticeship training.
And how does the profession of electrician, how does it compare to the other trades and professions inside the construction industry? Is it more challenging? Is it more demanding?
Well, I'm sure you would expect me to say yes, and I will say yes, it is. I mean, my view is that being an electrician is at the very top of the construction industry in terms of practical work. The qualification that the young people do through their apprenticeship is by and large equivalent with a university qualification. It's at a level 7 within the SVQ qualification remit. And that's really important because we want to make sure that we get good quality young people coming into the industry, so people who are interested in physics and maths, people who want to do work around renewables. All these things can make really a great adjustment and a great benefit to all our lives going forward and to theirs.
And graduates are also being recruited into apprenticeships to be electricians?
That's an interesting question, yes. We are actually looking at the moment of introducing a graduate apprenticeship. I mean, our thoughts at the moment is that would be someone who'd completed work as an apprentice electrician, maybe had a couple of years of experience, and then they would go back into the university place and do a graduate apprenticeship in basically around the electrician, which would again enhance the whole composition of the electrical industry going forward.
And I guess that one of the exciting areas in the future will be the electric car revolution. How do Select members have a role to play in that revolution?
That's a really good point, actually. I mean, there's various levels of involvement. At the moment, the majority of our member firms who are interested are installing electric vehicle charging points, and there's more and more of these springing up across the country, both in our own homes, but also in industrial units for council buildings, etc., and also in new build properties as well. So there's that aspect of it, but there's a wider aspect of that, because as more and more vehicles become electric, then that changes the whole dynamic of the auto electrician industry as well. So it may be that perhaps in the future you might see electricians having more of a role in relation to actually servicing and maintaining your vehicles as it becomes an electric marketplace.
So clearly in a period of quite dramatic change, where do you see Select being in 5 years' time?
Yeah, I think it is a really exciting time for the industry and for Select especially. I think for a Select perspective, what we've got to do is maintain and position ourselves as Scotland's biggest trade association, which we are, and amongst the top 10 in the UK. But at the end of the day, we depend on our members becoming and remaining members and services we provide, and a lot of that is down to face-to-face contact we have with them. So the advice we have through our technical advisors, through our membership representatives, through events like our Toolbox Talks, all of these events which have member engagement are really important to us. So we have to maintain that, and we have to look to opportunities to grow opportunities for members as well, new areas of business development.
Select has a responsibility to society generally. What top tips would you give for anyone seeking to have an electrician come into their home or business to undertake work?
Okay. Well, I think the first thing to do is to avoid what is often a simple answer for people, which is often to ask a friend or family member. Because sometimes all that does is perpetuate a problem all the way down. So if the family member is using an unqualified electrician, you will then use one, and so on. So I think the important thing, first of all, is to establish the credentials of the electrician you want to use. Now, you can do that by asking to see their qualifications, because every electrician should hold an SGIB registration card, which will confirm that. Or more likely, you could go onto our website and find an electrician who's competent and qualified in your area.
Tell us a little bit about what's involved in the day-to-day work of an electrician.
Well, as I said earlier, electricians work a whole host of different environments, so they can be working in schools and domestic properties and farms, all sorts of different properties they can work in. I mean, the important thing for an electrician at all times, and I come back to this position, is about safety. That is such a critical thing, because you can't afford to make a mistake, because often that would lead to danger and potentially loss of life. So electricians are very safety conscious in the whole training aspect of an apprenticeship, and also continuous development training is all based around safety elements. So it's about going into properties, making sure that electricity is switched off and locked off, making sure that you do tests beforehand to make sure that there's not any unsuspecting work or work behind walls that you can't see or be aware of. So a lot of that work preparatory is to make sure that you in the building is safe, and then obviously do lots of different works, LED lighting, electric vehicle storage charging points, our basic sockets and wiring that goes on all of the time, And I think it's important for people to realise, that the electrician is continually having to update their knowledge, because the regulations which apply to electricians, the wiring regulations, change on a frequent basis. So again, it's important they keep up to date to make sure we're all safe in our homes.
Absolutely. Now, Alan, tell us a little bit about yourself. You've been Managing Director of Select now for the last, year or so?
I became Acting Managing Director at this time last year in October, and I was appointed in the full-time position in May this year, in 2019, yeah.
And before you got to this level?
Yeah, I'd worked for Select for nearly 4 years as Head of Membership Communications. My background is in construction. For 27 years before I came here, I worked for SNPF, the Plumbing Federation, in a very similar role. I've had a contact with the construction industry pretty much all throughout my life.
And I understand from one of your friends that we also saw you back in the 90s on BBC Scotland's sports scene.
Yes, a slimmer, more hair-aligned Alan Wilson used to play football in those days, and the team I played for at that time, quaintly named the Civil Service Strollers, managed to qualify for the Scottish Cup, and we played up in Huntly in the Scottish Cup, and it was transmitted on BBC Sports Scene's programme.
Now, just to conclude our very enjoyable chat, just got some very quick-fire questions.
Sure.
Book or Kindle?
I'd have to say book. There's nothing better than buying a brand new book.
Radio 4 or Radio 2?
Radio 2.
Fine wine or fine malt?
I don't like whiskey, so it'd have to be fine wine.
Beach holiday or city break?
I would prefer a city break.
French cuisine or a curry?
I would say a curry.
That's great, Alan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Drew.